everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show. Today is November 22nd, and we're doing government and social news. So it's links.
Also, you guys might not be able to hear it, but today is officially, at least in terms of us being in this room, the first day of the Boiler Snake. He is risen.
We can hear it. I don't know that the mics are picking it up.
I don't know if we'll hear banging, but there is a continuous hissing as it's letting the cold air out.
He does prefer the hissing in here and the banging in the other room.
Yeah.
So...
This is also the week in America, if you're not from America, where everybody basically checks out because the last 2-3 days of the week, holiday.
Yeah. I thought it was next week. Like, my time is completely off now.
I don't think there's another Thursday, is there?
Yeah, I don't know why I thought it was this one or next one.
Does it ever line up such that it is Thursday, but then Friday is the 1st of December?
Probably could, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the rule? It's the last Thursday? I don't know the Thanksgiving canon.
The lore, yeah.
Is Black Friday going to be Red Friday? Oh, we got to wait for the business
There's
section.
a story about that, yeah.
Well, let's start with some government news. And this one has been a long time coming. It's actually been talked about for a very long time. Then it was decided, but then we had to wait even longer. And now we have to, that's right, wait a little bit longer.
The Verge has nutrition labels for broadband internet are finally here, except they're not quite here. But there is a mock-up of what they will be like when they actually get here.
I find that this is maybe the worst way they could have mocked it up. It feels kind of like an info dump, and I can see the average consumer looking at this and being like, I don't know what this means.
This is good, though, because...
yeah, it's an improvement.
At least people that are, can walk and chew gum can at least do a little bit of comparison shopping, which right now is basically impossible.
Yeah.
We'll have another story later about how, AT&T just charges you whatever they want and get away with it.
Now, they did get some loopholes pushed through here. So some of the things that they wanted are not quite as bad as they were. For example, typical speeds. What is a typical speed? That's all they have to report. They don't have to tell you about like bundles and that kind of thing maybe affecting the price. So
there's supposed to be a link to those, though. You have to say if it's an introductory price, and then there's like a bundle pricing link that's like, hey,
right.
The big thing that I really like with this is, it's like the rural broadband and the special discount broadband. There's supposed to be a link on this label that takes you to just a simple list of all the available plans. So again, if you can walk and chew gum and you read that, it's like, hey, wait a minute, I qualify for this cheaper plan.
What about people who have dentures?
No. I mean, you could gum. Gum is fine.
They might be able to do this, but they can't do that. Anyway, yeah, but those links, what percentage of people looking at the fact sheet are going to click those links? One?
I think it's just, that's my thing. I think it feels a little bit too dense. It's good that the information's out there, but I think the average person's going to be overwhelmed by it.
But without density, how are you going to cover all the horrible things that
they're
ISPs
doing
try
to
hide?
you? Yeah.
I guess you're damned if you do and damned if you don't there.
I remember trying to sign my mom up for the discount thing because, fixed income, elderly retiree, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, we don't have that. And I was like, no, you really do. And they're like, no, we don't. And then they're like, let me put you on hold. And they came back like, you're right. We do have a plan like that's like the CSRs aren't even trained on it.
Well, there's another thing that's been coming for a long time, although it's not been announced quite as robustly, but we're finally here. Now, this is not something that's going to touch you necessarily, but oh, it's coming.
Banking giants and the New York Fed start a 12-week digital dollar pilot. What better time to do this than when cryptocurrency is at its least popular?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And the economy is struggling terribly.
Right before holiday season and people don't have a lot of extra money.
Makes sense. This is the perfect time. Strike.
So you learn how to do it now, and let's say spring or summer 23, when everybody's, riding in the streets and starving, you can say, hey, we're going to give you another bailout. All you got to do is register your wallet. We're going to give it to you in CBDC. And then we're done.
What country was it that they did that and the people had no idea what's going on?
Was it El Salvador?
El Salvador did the Bitcoin thing. India did.
Oh yeah, India.
They tried to do the biometric cryptocurrency, and people were like, I don't know what this is.
They gave everybody like $8. And it's like, how do I get my $8?
Just give away all your rights.
Yeah, I kind of just like, keep your $8.
And your children's rights. We got a timed pop-up. Those are so insidious. And of course, the FTX saga continues. Not much has happened in the meantime. We've seen more about how bad it was, but what is going to happen when the wheels of government get rolling on this thing?
U.S. House Committee to hold a hearing on FTX collapse and the crypto fallout. Boy, the FTX collapse, we've got so many stories about that. Good Lord.
There's so many new acronyms to learn with all that as well.
Congress, the hearing from this is going to be amazing because every time I hear congressional hearing, I think about the show that was, Google. Remember the Google, Facebook? It's like, why does my iPhone know my location? It's like, I'm the CEO of Google.
Oh no. We got some good Zuckerberg memes out of that too.
Yeah, so.
And it's always fun to see when the government gets somebody who they really do not like in their crosshairs for something that's probably innocuous, probably not the biggest thing in the world, but they really go all the way to 11 when that happens.
The FBI and the Air Force have mysteriously raided the house of a guy who runs an Area 51 blog. This is like something out of an episode of The X-Files.
The speculation here, though, is that they don't really care about his alien conjecture, more that he's posting stuff about movements inside of the base.
Well, the search warrant, 40 pages of the search warrant is redacted, so he has no idea.
Yeah.
He's got to hire a lawyer with a security clearance. Those aren't cheap.
So he described how they smashed in the doors. This was a no-knock, destroy the house warrant. Ripped it apart, took every piece of electronics, left him with no phone and a broken door out in the middle of the desert with no way to contact anybody. His girlfriend was in his other house. He has two houses. Same thing happened there. They were both held outside in the cold with no shoes while they searched.
Oh, it would make running hard, I guess.
Would that really be a high risk? They know exactly who you are.
They might be worried if they let you go get shoes and socks that you might hide something or destroy something.
Also,
I
these
guess.
people were not under arrest, so
Yeah.
they were being detained for a search. They should have been able to leave, I think, if they wanted to. I mean, you probably don't want to in that situation.
I'm going to come back in like an hour, gonna go get some McDonald's and then,
Oh, what else can you do?
yeah.
It's like,
Well-
today feels like a McFlurry day.
But you also have to watch your house from looters because now it doesn't have a door.
I'm sure that's on purpose. Another set of looters, you mean, right? It's
Yeah.
they're probably looking for the source too, like the source of something, because it's like,
You're leaking
They're
state
looking-
secrets.
They're looking to intimidate.
yeah.
And when the FBI is not trampling on people's rights, they are sitting around wringing their hands over TikTok.
FBI is extremely concerned about China's influence through TikTok on U.S. users. Isn't the Amish extremely concerned about the modern world having an influence on Amish children?
I'm worried about the FBI's influence on
Area 51
everybody,
blogs.
U.S. users.
I mean, but TikTok probably is just spyware. Both things can be true.
And one of the big, this is tangentially related to tech, but you buy them all online now, right? And it's the bots that were probably ultimately responsible for this. So I felt like this was an important story to include, and it was a hot story this week.
Justice Department is said to investigate Ticketmaster's parent company. This is the botched pre-sale of Taylor Swift.
She
Yeah.
finally came out with a statement and was like, we're very disappointed, but she wouldn't quite say Ticketmaster, but she was definitely talking about Ticketmaster.
Yeah. There was another smaller musician that put their stuff on sale the same day, and it was a crap show for them too, because,
Ooh.
Oh, well.
yeah.
Yeah, but you can't, because Ticketmaster and Live Nation merged, which
Yeah.
created a juggernaut. They own all the venues and all the ticketing.
Yeah.
It's an obvious monopoly. That's what the government is looking into. But I mean, why would you even have to look into that?
Yeah.
Like, let's count the number of venues that you can use without Ticketmaster and Live Nation.
What are you going to do? Go somewhere else?
Well, it was funny to me in this article because I think it was both Republicans and Democrats were angry about it. And I was like, oh,
Both-
something to unite. They're both Swifties.
Taylor Swift brings us all together.
Yeah.
She would have it no other way. I wonder if she will, unleash the machinery and build her own Ticketmaster replacement.
No.
That sounds like something Jay-Z and Beyonce would do. I don't know that Taylor.
Poorly.
That wouldn't go well. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think she could do it?
Yeah, I think she could.
No.
She has the resources to hire the people to do
Yeah,
that, though.
yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Well, Jay-Z has those resources.
No.
But he did his own music thing for a while because he was trying to compete.
It was bad.
But it was bad.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Wasn't she somehow part of that controversy too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know all the details. It's been a few years.
I'm sure the comments will fill us in.
Yeah.
Engagement challenge.
Do you guys remember when the government, when Log4j and everything was happening, and they're like, listen, if you don't update your software, we're going to come after you. We're going to force you to. And they made all these important like announcements. It's like, we're not going to tolerate non-updated software. Well, guess who didn't update VMware?
U.S. government. Iranian hackers breached federal agency using log4shell exploit in VMware. Why was this even exposed?
Embarrassing.
Yeah, very.
So they're now saying if you have VMware in the government and you have not updated it, just assume the Iranians are in there, because they most likely are. Try to do something about it. And like you mentioned earlier, cryptocurrency has been absolutely crippled. It is, I'm still profitable. That's what's important. But I'm less than 100% profitable anymore, which is a sad day. It's all breaking down. And of course, California, all the powers that be who very grudgingly came over to the crypto side are now leaping right back over that fence and pretending that they never stuck their toes over in the first place.
California AG issues a warning-ladened guidance document for public interested in buying crypto.
I didn't think this was the worst thing in the world. It's kind of just got a list of terms and like, hey, by the way, you can lose money at this.
If the truth is absolution, then yeah, how can you complain? I mean, he's right about everything he's saying in this thing.
I do have to say that as crazy and tumultuous, I guess, that things have been the last couple of years, it is genuinely impressive that the S&P 500, like the index fund, is doing as well as it is, which is not amazing, but
they've been cheating since 2008.
it does suggest, yeah, I mean, that's the logical conclusion, right? Is that,
No, I mean, it's right out there in your face. They're monetizing debt. That's just how it's done these days.
that seems like that's going to explode.
Oh, have you not noticed?
That's a problem for future me. That's next quarter.
Are you not feeling the pressure of that explosion?
I mean, there's already, I mean, the explosion's happening in the crypto world, but it seems like the S&P 500 so far has avoided that. Although I can see, you know, like before something explodes in the cartoon, like the bolts pop out of it and steam comes out of the bolt hole. It seems like that.
But the steam you're feeling is raging inflation. It's happening. It's happening. Let's hope that they can put those bolts back. I don't know if they can this time. I would like them to, until I'm dead at least. And Google had a little bit of an issue with their location tracking. Specifically, they had a thing that was like turn off location tracking.
Do you not want to track location?
And guess what that didn't do?
Google agrees to a $392 million privacy settlement with 40 states.
Who were the 10 who didn't?
And they agreed.
I don't know.
That was free money, guys. Free
Yeah.
money. And they agreed to change the language to make it more obvious what's happened. This is the one. Remember, we reported on this, and the engineer, like that, the prosecution had the email from the engineer inside Google that said, "I'm an engineer, and I'm really confused by this wording. It didn't do what I thought it did because I went to look."
That's probably why they settled, huh?
Yeah.
So that money will go to you. No, I'm just kidding. You'll never see a penny of that. That will go to the state's coffers.
Yeah.
And they'll use it for your benefit? No.
Question mark?
You think the other 10 states will get on board next time? It's because it was free money for them.
Think they'll get another shot at that? And Dell also did some things in the old stock market that were, if not explicitly against the rules, certainly bending them to
Against the spirit.
it's very extreme angles.
Dell reaches a $1 billion settlement over disputed 2018 stock swap. This had to do with their acquisition of VMware. And don't forget, they just got rid of VMware to Broadcom.
So apparently the stockholders were like, hey, you traded off those stocks at a share value that was not advantageous to me. And you took on these other shares at a share value that wasn't advantageous to me. So you did not do your fiduciary duty by gobbling up competitors at.
Just in terms of a strictly dollar value, I think that the shareholders were harmed by more than $1 billion, but it is a bit of a moot point at this point with Broadcom taking over VMware. So $1 billion is probably still a net win for Google. I mean, for Dell.
Anybody who sold stock during that time, it's not a moot point.
No, I mean, it's still, if you look at it from that perspective, it's way more than $1 billion. Like if you just do the math, it's way more than $1 billion.
And a sad day.
Which was a hot story this week.
Poor Crazy Eyes will, in fact, she will be a guest of the federal government for some time. I did not realize she's just in amongst all of her like post fraud. She's had a kid and is now preggo again. So she's going into prison with one in the oven.
Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes sentenced to more than 11 years in prison. She's going in April. I don't know if she'll still be pregnant in April.
That's a reduced sentence because I think initially everyone thought it was going to be closer to 15.
Yeah. Who's going to raise those babies?
I guess her husband or boyfriend, whatever. Maybe that's why her sentence was lower than what everyone anticipated it was going to be.
You think those were defensive babies?
Defensive.
I think the more interesting thing with this is she was only found guilty on 4 counts. Sonny Balwani was found guilty of 12 counts, so he's probably going away for a lot longer.
He's not. He's also not a pretty girl. We'll find out his sentence next month.
Level 1 prediction: it's probably going to be about 4 times that.
I think the max was 20.
I think she
Was
also
what they were talking about for her anyway.
She threw him under the bus as being the mastermind, right?
Yeah.
So,
and he was found guilty on 12 counts.
Tough
But,
time.
I mean,
Tough time for him. He was at the top. Now he will be at the bottom. Probably deserves it. Well, it seems like the narrative, both sides of the narrative at this point, which is important. Like you're always going to have 2 sides of the narrative. Both of them are now turning on Trump. I think he might be done. His time might be over. And,
definitely doesn't have anything to do with a recent announcement about running for something.
And NPR is the first to jump on that dog pile.
The headline from NPR is Trump tweeted an image from a spy satellite and a declassified document shows.
This is 2018.
So this is actually, NPR is the source of the story as well as the write-up for the story, in that when this picture appeared on Twitter, NPR said, where did that come from? We would like to do a freedom of information request as to the details for this picture. But the picture was actually classified until just now in order to try to satisfy this freedom of information request. And so this is maybe some of the highest resolution and most sophisticated satellite imagery we can do, which the intelligence organization really didn't want to make known all over the world that we could see that good from space.
Yeah, people initially assumed it was drone footage, and it was like, no, that's a satellite picture.
The thing that drives me crazy about this story is, though, that because it's Trump, and Trump's defense here is like, I'm the president. I can declassify whatever I want. Like that's my prerogative to do that. I don't know that he had that in mind when he did it. I think it was probably just, doing whatever he felt like.
Look how cool this is.
Yeah.
Also, getting your intelligence agencies mad at you, not a good move,
No.
as shown in the past.
Yeah, but for the wrong reasons. It's because they're evil. And
Didn't we do stories after this story that said the intelligence agencies didn't want to share things because they didn't trust him not to just blab it?
I don't think they share things with anybody. And we found out after 9/11 they weren't sharing anything with each other. But the thing about it is, collectively, the news cycle is adopting the idea that this is bad. We should not have this information. Like they're literally arguing us at the press and the plebs should never see these things. We're not ready for them. And juxtapose that with Julian Assange.
I'm thinking more, they're thinking we don't want our enemies to know that we have these capabilities.
Well, there's some concern about that, but how would you take that out of the Assange stuff?
How would you share that with the public and not make the enemies aware of it also? Like that was one of the American ideals is, look, we'll have an open society and everything runs really well. And because people can be responsible adults, things get done. In reality, it's not that.
But also we went way to the other side. And
the darkness on this program. That's why you tune in. We love you too.
And the UK is desperately trying to economically do something. They're trying to make deals. They're trying to get it happening. It's not been good for them recently. They probably chose the wrong partner.
Chinese take over the UK's biggest chip plant blocked on national security grounds. China, don't feel bad. Same thing happened to NVIDIA with ARM.
Yeah, that was another one too, right?
Yeah.
There was a couple of, the UK has been very cagey.
Nothing personal, China. The U.S.
I kind of don't blame them necessarily for not wanting that.
But they forgot that SoftBank already owns it. It's not in the country. Yeah. I guess Japan is a lot more trustworthy these days than China. And we learned last week that Z Library was gone. They took down the domain, but we didn't know everything about the investigation. Now we hear the rest of it.
2 Russian nationals have been charged with running the massive ebook piracy website. And there's a lot of details that have emerged from here. Good Lord.
Weren't they running it from Argentina?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they literally like had just signed up for all those services, and they
Yeah.
found the accounts that were logged in, which is funny. And wow, it really is true that everything has to have a Discord server now.
I don't want to join everyone's Discord server.
I want to read about something, a new thing, and they're like, "Oh, just join the Discord." No, I don't want to.
It's so ephemeral. It's going to be lost.
Do you have an FAQ? Maybe a website? Nah, just join the Discord. It's horrible, but everybody's on the bandwagon.
Everyone is bullying the UK government and its own Discord server. I like the subheadline. Fix the cost of living crisis. No, we will make a Discord server where everybody can say, good Lord, everything's expensive.
Now, you couldn't chat in the UK Discord server. They knew that would go bad. What you could do is react with emojis. And guess what? There's an alphabet of emojis. So you were able to spell things on the posts.
Apparently, there were also a lot of comments about egging King Charles.
The emojis went away and it got locked into like a read-only mode, and people were like, "Oh, this is horrible." But it turns out that was Discord just reacting to the insane inflow of madness
Users,
going
yeah.
in there. And it's back now. So if you want to go and
Makes sense.
say curse words at your leaders, you can.
If you want to go put egg emojis on their photos,
I don't think Prince Charles will be reading those.
maybe his staff.
And Italy has definitely chosen a winner and a loser here when it comes to big tech.
Italy rejects Google's appeal against the watchdog fine, but it accepts Apple's appeal. So Apple, they both appealed because it's like, wait, we're not monopolies. And the Italian court said to Google, yes, you are. Stop that. Just pay the fine. So I guess Apple's case was more compelling.
Or their lobbying. Their campaign distributions, perhaps. Italy has also made a rule about facial recognition. It resembles the rule that they have about guns, which is the government and the authorities can have them, and you can't.
Italy outlaws facial recognition tech, except to fight crime.
Which, that made me think, like, I was talking about the Lowe's camera that has the security thing that's clearly following your face. Would they count that as fighting crime?
You have to register with them, though, and like give them access to it. So basically,
Nothing changed.
it's basically fascism. Government corporate alliance to crush you. Good luck with that. We've already got it here. It's terrible. Now, this one was in
Spain.
No. Is
I
this
thought
the
it
one we
was
talked
Spain.
about last week?
No.
Well, last one was Italy, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. I was confused about that, but I was like, I'm pretty sure this is a new one, and it is.
Police dismantle pirated TV streaming network with 500,000 users. This time in Spain.
Basically the same story, though.
Yeah. I'm sure it was coordinated by the rights holders.
Hell of a selection on these services, I gotta say.
It's really, you know, piracy, bad, blah, 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 whatever. But you look at the story and the police, like the big thing was, police seized 2,700 euros in cash and $180,000 of vehicles. And it's like, well, you know, if there were 10 people involved and they're driving 18,000 euro vehicles, this doesn't seem like a lot of money. This doesn't seem like people that are getting rich on this.
Yeah, but they are stealing. I mean, that's piracy, in my opinion. When the pirate flag becomes a problem is when you start reselling.
My impression of the Spanish economy, though, is that it's really on the struggle bus, except for in a couple of places. So piracy is going to be rampant regardless.
What about the U.S. economy?
Line must go up.
China is struggling these days to get chips. We are really beating them down in terms of what we're exporting, what we're allowing companies to sell them and stuff like that. But there is one way that they are China number one.
China tops U.S. to take research crown at global chip conference. This makes sense because we in America, let's just look at how on the struggle bus we are just getting a fab up and running in Wisconsin. It's so corrupt that we can't even turn it into a storage warehouse. How are we going to have people in higher education doing all sorts of fancy chip research? There's pockets of that, sure, but there's not, you know, tens of thousands of students and graduate students and professors working on this kind of stuff 24/7 with a fever.
Japan also had huge gains. So Team Asia really killing it on the research papers right now. Also in Japan, they have somewhat been insulated from this global inflation train, but it seems like that is coming to an end.
Japan's inflation hits a 40-year high as weak yen fans import costs. So yeah, that was my takeaway from this too, is that like domestically they've done okay, but they can't import stuff. And their economy a lot of their citizens really want to import a lot of stuff, and they can't at a reasonable price.
I mean, when you live on an island,
Yeah.
importing kind of critical. I would love to send them some of my inflation.
Yeah.
And India is taking a step that so many countries have already done.
USB-C will be mandatory for all smart devices sold in India. Makes sense.
Does make sense. It's weird when governments do things that make sense.
It's because they've had all they can stands and they can't stands no more.
But if you don't want to hear about governments doing things that make sense, how about the exact opposite of that?
El Salvador plans to buy more Bitcoin every day, despite losing millions already. Hey, how much lower can it go, right?
The government officials are all screaming, please stop. And he's like, I'm going to buy even more.
I like how cash this guy is on the
Yeah.
podium.
Just,
We don't need people wearing suits. It really is dumb. Although, if you think about like contrarian investing, right now would be the time to buy Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
assuming it's actually going to go up again.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to take a risk, right? Although he didn't, that's not really an argument for him because he bought Bitcoin all the way down.
Yeah.
Also, the people don't seem to, I mean, obviously they've lost money from it, but like you say, they haven't adopted it. Like the El Salvador.
No one's interested in it.
Just him.
Is this one of those things where somebody's in the casino and they think, oh, all I have to do is double my bet every time. And then when I finally get a winning hand, it'll make up for all of my losses. I mean, that works if you've got infinite money.
Except casinos have table limits to neuter that. They know about that. That doesn't work. And Australia, they have had a real tough time with crypto and ransomware and all kinds of stuff, causing them big economic problems. I think they're saying it's time to take a step.
Australia to consider banning ransomware payments. Yeah, makes sense. I don't know if this will really negatively impact things, though, because people will just find a way around it. And the State Department gets really angry if you pay ransomware groups in Iran. They will call you and complain.
We're going to send you a strongly worded letter.
Yeah, they're like, technically that's a federal crime. It's
But
like,
the thing about it is the step after the strongly worded letter is sitting you outside in the winter while they tear your house apart.
yeah.
And they can do that whenever they feel like
I
it.
just innocently paid the people that ransomed my data. What do you want from me? Anything that plugs into the wall, sir. Okay.
And any loose cash you got lying around, we'll love to take that from you.
2,700 euros and $118,000 in vehicles.
And, there's these days, a lot of talk about getting your tokens stolen. So many people losing their tokens, but that's a different kind of token. Crypto tokens, this is authentication tokens, but you have to watch out for those as well.
Microsoft says that hackers are using this concerning tactic to dodge multi-factor authentication. Token theft is on the rise. Okay.
So this is after you authenticate, somebody gets a hold of that token, current session is still good, they're in there.
This is supposed to be neutralized if your IP address or your network connection changes, but I guess the rules for this have been relaxed since a lot of users are mobile. And it's like 1 second you might have your workplace's source IP address, and the next moment you might be on your 5G provider or something. And so there's a little bit of leeway with that, but I would think that if you suddenly show up in another country, you could deal with that. It doesn't really help you if your machine's been Trojanized, but
Just another thing to worry about. Not much you can do about it. And ransomware, it turns out that, just like companies have been lazy about their security policies, ransomware operators are getting lazy about their encryption algorithms. They're not updating them.
researchers quietly cracked the Zeppelin ransomware keys. So if you were hit by the Zeppelin ransomware and you reported it to the FBI, they would call you back and sort of clandestinely help you connect with a commercial company that would recover the keys for you and help you get your stuff. So that was cool, but you were asked to keep quiet about it. This was going on 2 years ago. So that was awfully nice of the FBI. It does pay to report things to the FBI.
Do you think Did they ask for like a little finder's fee there
I'm sure that there was money exchanged hands. Yeah.
between the company and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, yeah, let's start you in on the FBI affiliate program.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Ring camera network? Doing big things with that. macOS malware is something that I don't know anything about, but I know that it exists, and apparently there's one big hotbed of it.
Almost 50% of macOS malware only comes from one app. That app, the App Store. No, not really.
It's called Mac Keeper.
Yeah, I guess it's supposed to actually prevent that kind of thing, and it doesn't. There's another graph in here, and it said like only 11% is crypto. That surprised me.
Mostly it's a Trojan. They just want to see what you're doing, which is, how it started on Windows. The nagware, adware. It's like we just want to
Just want to watch. Yeah.
But apparently this program itself also nearly impossible to uninstall. Does a lot of tracking on its own. So just stay away from that one maybe.
Yay, Mac OS.
And if you are a Netflix user, and Krista, I mean the holder of the account, the person who actually pays the bill, this is for those people, not the people who are just watching it on those accounts.
Netflix gives account holders the ability to kick freeloaders.
How? It shows you all the devices that are logged in, and you can kick people out.
There's a lot logged in to the other account.
Although I like
A lot.
I like the stories on Reddit that are like /r/am I the butthole, and there are stories on there of the non-account holder kicking off the account holder because they wanted to watch something on Netflix, and it was like, oh, your 4 streams are in use or whatever.
I mean, how does it differentiate when everybody has the same login?
Yeah, it doesn't.
You can't really.
Well, I've gotten the pop-up before that's like, hey, too many people are watching it, and I usually just go watch something else because
Yeah.
I don't want to kick someone off. But the recommended on Netflix is just an absolute freak show because there's so many different people using
You
it.
don't do the profiles?
We don't have enough.
Oh, is it? How many profiles do you get?
I think like 3.
Oh, wow. Maybe you could lump yourself into groups.
Yeah. Weird anime dramas.
That'd be great if there was, some kind of drama in the social circle because somebody jumps groups.
Oh yeah. Ruins the recommendations.
I thought you were into nature shows and cooking. What are you doing in anime? And online chats, they get a little rowdy.
Yeah.
People behave poorly when given that opportunity, like with the UK Discord, obviously. But there's always this constant desire to sanitize that. How do you do it? Well, only through a horrible dystopia.
Ubisoft and Riot Games are working together to combat toxic chats. How are they doing that? With an AI overlord, an algorithm that's filtering everything that you say so that you must adjust everything and speak in code.
There was a recent thing I read about where, people would tell you, kill yourself, but it would get flagged by these AIs as being like, no, you can't say that. So now the thing that I've seen online now is unalive yourself. And
Oh, man, I'm gonna use
eventually AI is going to pick that up, but it's going to take a while.
Do you think the Indian call center people will understand that if I say that to them?
I have to look it up.
We have a real communication barrier when I'm trying to insult them. But now they do say here, they're like, now we realize that in order to do this, we have to monitor everything and we have to store that data. So phase 1 is we're going to find a good way to do that.
Language just changes so fast. It's going to be a constant game of whack-a-mole, I think.
You shouldn't have said those words because we're going to get burned hard for that. But watching police interrogation videos and stuff like that, also, they always censor those words. Because even in that context, anything the algorithm sees that with the S word immediately gets demonetized. And robot cars are coming, although they're coming slowly because they don't work. However, what if we just cherry-picked little pieces of robotic cars and put them in all the cars?
Studies find that automatic braking can cut crashes over 40%. Basically, people aren't paying attention, and if your car brakes suddenly, then you look up and say, why is the car braking? Oh, because I need to pay attention. Sounds good.
Oh, because I was about to rear end someone.
There is a little bit of an issue here in terms of that means that the overlords can activate your brakes and lock them whenever they feel like, but I think we're kind of already there.
Yeah.
So
You have a newer car.
That should be something that doesn't require the cloud to run. So maybe you can find the 5G SIM and pop it out.
And Xbox, they have been working on their own version of this to try to figure out who is doing bad things without anybody reporting them. And it seems like, now we don't know what the false positive number here is, but they're getting big numbers.
Xbox Transparency Report reveals up to 4.78 million accounts were proactively suspended in just 6 months. Now, this does have year-over-year comparisons. And the really interesting thing is that the accounts in the same category last year was only 461K. So is this algorithmic oppression, or was this just, a rampant? Because on the one hand, I'm thinking about this in terms of like the Microsoft App Store. Like if Microsoft really cracked down on all the garbage in the Microsoft App Store, the graph would look just like this. But if it's just algorithmic insanity, then there's a lot of false positives there. I don't know which it is. It could be both, I guess.
It's been a long time since I was on an Xbox game server and voice chat. But every time I've been on an Xbox game server and voice chat, I heard words that were very not allowed in today's narrative. So
Also, algorithmic oppression would be a great punk band name.
Seize the means of computation.
That would be a fun fake band to make.
all right.
That's
all
everything for
that
government
one.
news.
We will see you guys Wednesday, Thursday, whatever day we post. I
It's
forgot.
Wednesday.
Wednesday with business links and fun anecdotal stories.
They'll have a gap on Thanksgiving that they'll have to fill with something else, turkey, and then we'll be back Friday.
You could abstain on Wednesday and listen to that during the drive. That might be the pro move.
I doubt very seriously we'll be streaming Friday though.
No, probably not.
I might stream Friday.
Are you going to visit family?
Yeah, but I'll come back that same day. I don't stay overnight there. And I am seriously addicted to We Who Are About to Die. Seriously.
I'm seriously addicted to Cosmeteer, but I just haven't had any time to play it.
It's like I still have Cosmeteer and Zero Sievert, both fantastic games, but I can't go back to them because of this compulsion.
I went down a rabbit hole of using crystals and like the plasma energy thing, and you can combine the crystals in different ways, and it results in different energy multipliers. And so now I've got an arrangement with crystals where I've got like this weird batwing thing, and like it shoots and redirects the plasma crystals, and for the star system that I'm in, the energy beam hits the enemy ships and they just explode.
You take that to the next level, you put that on the back of the ship. So while you're running away from them, you're just peeing in their face with lasers. So satisfying. What a great game.
All right. We'll see you guys. Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show. Today is November 23rd, and we're doing business and social. Also, I think I said social last time and then realized we were doing security about halfway through. Whoops.
Too late to fix it now. Well, we have a somewhat shortened collapse section this week, but we do have some collapse stories.
There's still quite a few.
Don't fret.
Amazon CEO says more layoffs will happen in 2023. Don't worry.
Ugh.
And this is not warehouse layoffs. This is the executive. So
It kind of feels like they were waiting till after Christmas, though. They're like, we're going to wait till like January.
Well, they need everybody for that Christmas rush. You think they'll get to the point where they're telling the white collar people, it's like, why don't you just go do some time in the warehouse?
Probably.
tell me that you're expecting a credit card debt wall without telling me that you're expecting a credit card debt wall.
And at Amazon, there was one unit that has been able to do no wrong up until now. They were carrying a lot of that company with their huge profits. But even that, starting to sag.
Amazon's once red-hot web services business extends hiring freeze for most teams until 2023 and targets low performers. I love this low performers thing. It's sort of the new CEO hot word. It's like low performers, but it's defined as the bottom X% of the company. There's always going to be a bottom X% of the company.
They could still be performing really, really well.
Yeah.
They're just lower than everybody else.
But that is the new buzzword, and that is the soft layoff, right?
Yeah.
That's how we do that without saying that we're actually doing that. Oh, this pop-up ruined my perfect transition.
10,000 Google employees could be rated as low performers. So Google is moving 3%, identify 3% of the people that are maybe not contributing as much as the others to 10%. That's more than doubling. That's more than a tripling. What does that tell you? Is that another stealth layoff? I think it's a layoff. Wall Street had better not get a hint of that. Otherwise, the stock price is going to go crazy. And then maybe we'll see the S&P 500 have problems.
That'll be a nice, happy new year.
That's weird. The S&P 500 is fine. What's going on? That seems weird.
Now, there is one man among all this whose job security is nearly guaranteed, and that is John Ray III. What does he do? Well, he presides over companies that have been horribly destroyed by corruption.
Like Enron. Oh, wait. Never seen such a complete failure of corporate controls, says new FTX CEO, who also oversaw the Enron bankruptcy.
So he's seen some pretty bad stuff. And yet it was nothing compared to what he's describing here.
I thought Adelphia was bad. FTX? Good Lord.
I saw another FTX headline that was just like the guy, and then it was like the quote was, "I effed up."
Yeah. Well, he did some reporter got him on Twitter direct messages or something. And he said a lot of stuff that was probably really stupid to say.
Yeah, to anybody but his lawyer.
And then they printed it, obviously. And so, yeah, FTX, big problems. And we're just seeing the start of this.
FTX owes money to more than 1 million people, court filing suggests. In fact, there could be more than 1 million creditors, because the little paperwork, the bankruptcy paperwork, is how many creditors do you have? And most of the options are centered around less than 1,000.
Yeah, and I got bad news for those 1 million people. You're never getting anything. But he's delusional enough to try.
You've been mountain goxed. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried attempts to raise cash, according to the Wall Street Journal. This is a Reuters article, too.
Look at the unhinged look in his eyes. Like,
he's got the crazy eyes, doesn't he?
yeah.
I like somebody made a card with a Theranos lady and him and a bunch of other people over the years, and Bernie Madoff, and it's just like, what?
I bet I can tell you the number one response to people after he pitches that idea to them to raise that money. It's always, ooh, it's tight right now. The downturn.
Bro, I really feel for you, but I'm sorry, I can't right now. It's Christmas. I got to get gifts for the kids.
And the contagion has not stopped.
The crypto lender BlockFi says that it has significant exposure to FTX. They're not the only ones that have popped up and
I need
said,
to isolate.
How do you get 6 feet away from financial contagion?
Gemini.
Do that one. Yeah, hang on. And so another knock-on effect of all of these crypto houses had FTX. They had exposure to FTX. So obviously when something just disappears.
Gemini warns customers of likely withdrawal delays due to Genesis lending pause.
Gemini, I think, is the Winklevoss one.
It's a platform where you give them your crypto and you earn a return on it, which is from 0.75 to like 6 or 7%, something like that. But they have your crypto, but now you can't get your crypto out.
Because your crypto is now worth 0.
Yeah. Well, your crypto might not be worth 0, but whatever they were doing with your crypto is now worth 0.
And it's not yours anymore.
Yeah.
Because now it's part of the bankruptcy. Not yet, but
Coming.
Isn't this why FDIC insurance was created?
This is the Wild West. That's how they're going to destroy crypto, because these people didn't realize they were taking all this risk. Although it's BS, because the powers that be turned over on crypto and started recommending it at some point.
Because they were trying to get in and make money.
If this is the one the Winklevoss twins are behind, then they can make me whole. Surely we're going to see some amazing lawsuits out of that.
Do we have any lawmakers who staunchly stayed anti-crypto and were, like shouted down?
Not after all the lobbying dollars showed up.
That's an
I'm
easy
sure
way
that
to
there
get
must be
donations.
one. Someone maybe in the chat might know.
Did Rand Paul ever talk about cryptos?
Because of the Russian axis, probably not.
What about, I guess Bernie would be pro-crypto, right? He's the other one I could think of that might turn against the tide.
It's like, this might be an egalitarian monetary system, and the Fed is horrifying. No, it turns out this was even more horrifying. Oops.
Well, you don't have to be involved in the crypto world in order to be destroyed as a modern company.
Protocol. the new tech news focused website will shutter and lay off its entire staff. We very regularly used stories from there, and they were okay. I'm surprised that there were 60 people behind that website. That is a much larger staff than I would have estimated.
It seems like a lot of places now, they just hire someone to do writing freelance. So
Well,
it's incredible they actually had a staff and not just a bunch of freelance writers.
It's crazy though, because AI like GPT-3 and GPT-4 for mainstream consumption, like the Wall Street Journal can just have an AI give a summary on who TSMC is, or who, what this piece of technology is, or whatever, and it will output a perfectly reasonable thing.
We have a story about that later, and I have some anecdotal talks about how that is not true.
And you could poison that
You
Yeah.
can poison it.
easily. Well, I noticed this is funny because I watch shoplifting videos on YouTube, and one channel, whenever someone would shoplift, whatever item they were shoplifting, it would pop up and it'd be like YouTube shopping, and you could buy the M&Ms on Amazon that were being stolen in the video. And I was like, I wonder if that's automatic, or is the channel monetizing that somehow? Turns out the channel was monetizing it somehow.
YouTube expands shopping features to combat digital ad slowdown. They've noticed that creators are using things like Amazon and Newegg, etc., affiliate links, and making money that way, and YouTube wants their cut.
I didn't buy any M&Ms, but
TikTok has something like this too. This is just them chasing TikTok again.
isn't every social media company right now just
Chasing
chasing
TikTok, yeah.
And this has been a big concern for some time now. And it was a big concern before we announced like 5 new fabs in this area. But now they're finally facing it, I guess.
Microsoft, Meta, and others face a rising drought risk to their data centers. This article says that in just one day it takes 300,000 gallons to cool itself, but that water's not lost.
Some of it probably is, but yeah.
Very little of it.
But you have to retreat it, right?
Yeah.
It has to be perfectly pure. So it's not like you can just keep using it over and over, but you could certainly probably recycle a lot of it.
Could add a solar reverse evaporation system.
Well, if the discussion is also about like, we might not have enough money for farms or our people, data centers you'd think would maybe be a little lower on the list, but
I'm not sure though.
the way things are today, I mean, yeah, I guess. I guess water's not a human right anymore, right?
They say by 2030 they want to be water positive.
I also wondered what that meant.
I don't know. Are they going to generate water somehow?
Collect rainwater.
But,
Wait, that's not allowed.
They also
Not
said they
there.
want water out of the cooling process. Do you think that's like going with cooling fluids?
They're going with
Glycol.
PUFA oils to cool it.
But do you have to clean that every time too?
Glycol, it will have to be filtered and dealt with, yeah.
New business opportunity out there. You got some filtering equipment, or you want to invest in some.
I've patented a new glycol filter that's 80% more efficient than the most efficient next model.
Well, remember the epic Apple lawsuit? It's over. No,
No.
it's never
Never.
over. The appeals process will go on indefinitely, and we still get like the big back and forth every time.
Epic strikes back at Apple's iOS security defense in the appeals court. It says, no, this is just a thin veneer. It's a walled garden for exclusivity. It doesn't really have anything to do with security. Security is, any kind of effect on security is really just a secondary effect, not a primary effect.
That rings true to me.
Yeah.
I believe that. So, more of that nonsense for years and years to come.
See, also, Facebook didn't really have any trouble getting the data out from the iOS app for Cambridge Analytica. Where was your security then, Apple? Where was it?
Now, Apple has been forced, as we just saw yesterday, in India is the newest one. Every country is going to get on this bandwagon. They are going to have to put USB-C on the iPhones everywhere. They took one last little FU on the way out just to screw their consumers.
Only the iPhone 15 Pro will get a speed upgrade with USB-C, says analyst. That means the USB-C connection will operate at USB 2.0 speeds, which is a pokey 40 megabit.
Most people probably won't notice that. But it's why would you?
Such garbage.
How much money did they save doing that?
Probably none. They're just doing it to be spiteful.
Well, they didn't have to get the better chips, so there's some savings there, but
Why are you plugging your phone in? It just does things wirelessly.
That was
Yeah.
literally verbatim a comment in that article.
I can see a lot of people feeling that way.
How do you transfer photos and
We're
stuff?
doomed. Doomed as a species.
You use the Apple Cloud, Krista, obviously, the iCloud. They recommend that for everything.
Yeah.
You got back problems? Have you tried the iCloud?
It didn't help.
Eating too many poofas? Oh, the iCloud.
It's poofa free. And NVIDIA, of course, the big controversy swirling around their power connectors continues to be hotly debated.
NVIDIA hit with a class action suit over melting RTX 4090 GPU adapters. Although Gamers Nexus did some research, and it sure thinks that NVIDIA thinks the RTX 4090 cables were melted because they weren't fully plugged in. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that. Yeah. There's a picture from Gamers Nexus that shows a connector starting to melt when it was just that much out of the seat.
But that's, I mean,
I was going to say, you can barely tell a difference. Like, is that really the fault of the consumer if it's not designed in such a way that it's clear?
I would also say that an electrical outlet, like people have heaters that aren't plugged in all the time, it doesn't burn your house down.
Yeah.
yeah, because there's rules about tolerances with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You have to, they're pushing the envelope so hard that we're probably in a world we're going to start thinking about like not making them out of these crappy materials anymore, right?
Yeah. There's also, I don't know if this is with this connector, but with this type of connector, the larger version of this connector, as they heat and cool through different use cycles, the expansion and contraction will actually cause the connector to work its way out. That's what the snap is for, is to snap in. But if it's all the way in and it doesn't snap for some reason, which,
Or you break that little tab off, which happens.
yeah, it'll just work its way out. And at some point in working its way out, it catches on fire.
Which is the worst thing. If you're making an electronic device, you never want it to catch on fire.
It's like the early days of the electric light bulb. It's like, oh, the electric light bulb is so amazing. There's a 1 in 1,000 chance it'll burn your house down.
But candles.
Well, the candle's like 1 in 100.
Yeah.
So,
It blows my mind when I read about like the history of the Christmas tree, and people used to put actual candles
On a
in
dry-
tinder. Yeah, on a dry Christmas tree.
people do insane things around holidays.
Yeah.
It really is amazing.
Because it's very stressful. Very, very stressful.
Look how beautiful the live candles look in my giant piece of tinder.
And think about when you're going through the holiday magic, think about how all those major companies recognized that and preyed on it so
yeah.
heavily. Well, this is an interesting headline because what this study found is actually kind of the opposite of what the headline says.
Apple AirPods can work as a more affordable hearing aid, study finds. A $249 pair of wireless earbuds isn't cheap, but it's more accessible than a $10,000 hearing aid. So they found that it worked better in some scenarios with cheap hearing aids, but it wasn't better than the more expensive hearing aids.
But nowhere close to the $10,000 hearing aids.
Well, and apparently some people were saying too that a lot of hearing aids that are still really good are nowhere near that $10,000 price point, and they're still going to work better than the earbuds. So it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, what that headline should have been was we had this idea and it turned out to be wrong.
yeah, or right, but only under very particular conditions.
So restrictive conditions that we might as well have been wrong. But that would not have made a very good news story.
How long before hearing aid companies get an exemption to make their $10,000 hearing aids look like AirPods to avoid the social stigma of having a hearing aid?
I feel very heavily social stigma against the AirPod people, especially at the grocery store.
Yeah.
I don't want to see AirPods in your ears at the grocery store. Pay attention.
Yeah, I'm kind of amazed how many people listen to headphones while they
Shocking.
shop. I usually don't.
I'm shocked at how many people are not listening to headphones, but they're having a conversation with themselves, and it's like, oh, thank God I see an AirPod. They're not schizophrenic.
Oh, I talk to myself all the time. Like,
Without the
don't-
AirPods.
no, yeah, just because I'm weird, and I recognize that that's strange, but
Well, we talked about this last week and it didn't take very long. It is now ready to go. I think some people are already getting this service.
Apple launches Emergency SOS via satellite in US and Canada. If you got an iPhone 14 or 14 Pro, you'll see a new feature show up on your iPhone that could save your life one day.
I looked for this thread for like 20 minutes. Someone in, I think, the ultralight subreddit, which is a hiking subreddit, said that they had tested this and it worked pretty well. Could not find the thread again because I was going to add it to the list of stories, but
Now,
Kinda cool.
can you contact anybody, or is it just an emergency service?
It's an emergency service.
So when they
So
were testing, they were like, "Just kidding, guys, but does this work?"
yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it works though. That's very similar to like the Garmin InReach. There's a very similar little device you can like clip to your backpack, and I think it does have a texting capability, but for the most part, it is just like an SOS button.
Another thing that it's going to be tough for drama and horror writers to write around.
Will no one think about the creativity of our writers?
Well, no one think of our imaginary horror killers.
I wonder if in our lifetime we'll get to a point where you hit the emergency SOS button and then immediately like 10 rescue robots descend on your location.
Drones.
And snap your neck and harvest your organs.
This is a better use of the money.
Well, the cloud is out there, and Microsoft has decided to make it super cloud.
Cloud computing. Microsoft and Nvidia are building a massive AI supercomputer. Here's why. It's mainly the CUDA software stack, but it's going to be in Azure, and it's going to do all kinds of fun stuff. Why Microsoft? Well, Microsoft has shown that they're the most serious of all the cloud providers about building giant, insanely fast interconnects among all their machines in the cloud.
And yet Microsoft Dynamics, like 10 seconds per click seems to be what they're satisfied with. Maybe they should put some supercomputer power on that. And Microsoft has also, they're trying to get away from those pesky physical purchases. They want everything to be in the cloud, like we're talking about. So they made an Xbox that was no discs, just straight up all online streaming console. However, in these inflationary times,
Microsoft's Xbox streaming console Keystone was pushed back because of its price. They couldn't quite get it to around $100, so maybe we'll see a similar device later. It's shocking that they couldn't do that for $100 because that's basically a Chromecast, right?
I think they still have the graphical processing on board. Maybe not. I don't know. The Chromecast can be pretty crappy with the menus and stuff. And Tim Cook may have said something out of turn here. This might not have been a public thing to talk about yet, but he did talk about it in an unrelated speech.
Apple will buy processors from a factory in Arizona, CEO Tim Cook reportedly says.
The full quote was some processors.
Yeah. Now, the article says that this is going to be the TSMC facility, and that would mean that it's going to be online in 2024. But I don't know if we really have confirmation that it's TSMC.
Also, those projects rarely finish on time.
Yeah.
2024 seems awfully close.
Very close. And plus, things are not good right now. So, plus that's an election year. Can you imagine? I wasn't familiar with these one-wheel balance board things. Have you guys seen any of these in the wild?
Yeah. I've seen them on YouTube. I guess we'll say that. They're really popular with like a certain type of YouTuber.
How fast do they go?
Pretty quick, I think.
Apparently too quick.
U.S. safety watchdog warns against one-wheel boards after reported ejection injuries. One Wheels rejected the demands for a recall. They said, motorcycles and bicycles and stuff like that, people injure themselves all the time. We recommend people wear knee pads and helmets, and they don't. So
yeah, they pointed out that the bicycle injury rate was way higher. But I can see how, like, if that thing stops suddenly, you're just gonna keep going. That's true of a skateboard, though, right?
Yeah. But you're not going nearly as fast on a skateboard compared to this thing.
Maybe you're not, Krista.
I'm definitely not. I've tried to skateboard. I'm not good at it.
And we have, China has these weird rules where you can't just do business in their country. You have to have a local subsidiary that does business in their country. And there's all these complicated contracts which expire.
Blizzard will pull World of Warcraft from China as the NetEase deal ends. In before a small crack team produces a clone of World of Warcraft in just a few weeks.
Oddly enough, that this contract affects everything except Diablo Mobile. What was the name of it?
Diablo Immortal?
Yeah.
That game was so bad.
But the Chinese,
and yet they made a ton of money off of it.
The Chinese love it, and they're spending money on it, so it gets to stay for whatever reason.
Interesting.
This might be me misremembering, but wasn't there an old version of World of Warcraft where like they changed the skeletons into something else because the Chinese people didn't like skeletons and there was a rule against just like showing them in a video game.
What did they turn them into?
I can't remember. I might be completely manufacturing this, but maybe someone will know.
Is that? I can't imagine you couldn't have skeletons, but you could have people stabbing each other.
I don't know.
It's weird.
Maybe I dreamt that.
That's a cool dream if you did. And Google has a bevy of new features. I didn't find any of them too compelling. Did you?
Google rolls out new search features across Maps, search, and shopping, or just new features in general.
The big ones were around restaurants. You can now search for a meal that you want or ingredients that you want to eat, and they'll tell you where to go to get that food.
The thing that scared me about that, I was thinking as someone who works in the web industry, I'm like, does that mean there's going to be some sort of like new standard I have to follow if I'm designing a restaurant website so it'll be compatible with this new search thing?
The augmented reality one I thought was the big one.
But only available in very major cities.
Yeah. You just hold up your phone and it shows you what businesses are inside the
area.
The thing. Or if you did a search for food, it shows you which ones are closer in a augmented reality kind of way instead of a map and walking directions kind of way.
And we don't have screenshots of it, but they also have augmented reality where you hold up your phone on your feet and it shows you what shoes would look like on your feet.
Oh, yeah. And then, like, yeah, I think there's another one where it's like match your skin tone for foundation.
Okay.
I don't see how you can ever. I would never trust a website or anything like that to do that for skin tone.
What about your cosmetics that someone sent you?
Oh yeah, I tried them. I actually really liked it. It's a moisturizer. So you use the moisturizer and then you put a little bit of the gel in it, and it like makes your skin really soft.
That's a strong thing to have in these because we were just talking about
how dry it is. Yeah, it's been really nice. Thank you.
Who was that?
Andrew Will, I think, is the username. They sent me the same box of cosmetics before from the same brand.
Had you worked through the other one?
I have a little bit of some of the gel cleanser left, but I had used a lot of the other.
What if they knew that you were ready for it because they're monitoring your
location? That would be incredible, considering where I live.
That's amazing.
And here's a Captain Obvious story. We've known about this for a while, but they did do a pretty good roundup.
Internet providers play tricks to raise your bill. Here are the worst. AT&T. AT&T's the worst.
Yeah.
Also Spectrum. Also Suddenlink. Suddenlink and AT&T were the worst, though.
Was Spectrum even mentioned on this list, or was that just for bundling?
Bundling.
Okay.
They're owned by who? It might be lumped together.
I'm surprised this article didn't mention the broadband nutrition thing, though.
So they're kind of pointing out, it's like, yeah, if you're poor, you're going to pay more.
If there's no competition, you're going to pay more. AT&T has the spread is basically $60. It's like no matter what they have, it's going to cost $60.
If you're poor in a rural area and there's no one else,
$60, $63 in fact.
Sonic, I've never heard of Sonic broadband.
Yeah, there was several brands I'd never heard of.
Sonic is a subsidiary of Suddenlink, I believe.
So AT&T, yeah, they were far and away the worst.
No surprise there.
They pointed out that obviously the best thing to do is to call and threaten to quit. And I think it was almost 50% of the time you would get massive savings.
That's such a waste of everybody's time, though.
That's because they know most people won't do it.
Won't do it. I mean, I don't want to call them.
That's why it's effective.
Can you imagine when we have the technology for individual goods? You go to Walmart and you have to negotiate with Walmart to buy your goods. They don't just tell you what it costs.
I mean, yeah, we're just bringing back the bartering system.
We're going to let you have these grapes, but next week we might need more money for them.
Well, that's already happening.
No, not for next week's grapes. For the grapes you're getting now. We might send you an additional grape bill. And you have to agree to that.
Grow your own grapes. Viva la revolution.
I mean, that really is broadband.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, your introductory pricing's over. We're going to need more money.
I didn't get my grapes this week. Oh, we're sorry about that. We're still going to bill you full for your grapes.
I remember when fiber first came to town, like the month or the 2 months before that, my introductory pricing ended and it was going to be like $50 more. And I was like, I mean, do I really have to cancel to get the better rate? And they're like, yeah, there's nobody else. And I called back a week later and was like, I want to cancel. And they're like, wait, really?
Well, Fortnite or Epic is not just in combat with Apple. They're also in combat with Google for the same reasons. And they are uncovering in their discovery with these lawsuits, some very embarrassing things. However, Google has said, no, this is not true, as has Activision.
Fortnite Maker says Google paid Activision millions not to launch a rival app store. Epic Games, which is in the midst of lawsuits against Google and Apple, filed court documents, says that it proves wrongful doing. So Google says, no, that payment for millions of dollars was not really about an app store. We really just wanted to get alignment in terms of their application distribution strategy, which sounds a lot like an app store.
Sounds like they might not be able to prove it, but it's definitely true. So, and we covered this earlier because in the government section, we pointed out that the powers that be are looking into this. Enough people are angry. There's so many Taylor Swift fans that the fury has actually moved our leaders to action, which is like, they don't do that about anything. But this was a big deal.
Taylor Swift says that her team was assured repeatedly and in writing the ticket demands would be met for her Eras tour. In fact, the website went down.
Do you have the capacity for this? Yeah, absolutely.
We're the monopoly. We own and control everything. We could definitely handle this. They, in fact, could not.
My favorite paragraph reading about this was they pointed out how there was supposed to be another sale that was exclusive to Capital One customers. It's like all these disgusting.
Oh yeah, because
practices.
she does ads for them.
Right. So the poor Capital One customers didn't even get their special treatment because of this.
I've seen a lot of people salty about this. I actually had a friend who managed to get tickets, and I don't want to know how much she paid for them. I think a lot of them started at like $500.
I don't. I mean, her music is fine when it comes to pop music, but
Yeah.
I don't understand the desperate need to
go see her live. Yeah.
go look at her. I mean, she's a lovely girl.
Can I get some news footage of what it was like in the stadium? That's all I need.
Yeah, it'd probably be like a home viewing experience on Disney Plus that you can check out.
You're virtually there in the stadium. Oh, that sounds much better than actually being there.
She had some sort of documentary come out about her. I think on one of those streaming platforms. It was Prime or Disney Plus or.
Was she involved?
Yeah, she was like, I guess the head of it.
So it wasn't true then.
Probably not. It was probably a PR piece.
It's the Weird Al Yankovic story.
Oh, did you ever check that one out?
I did. Yeah.
Was it good?
What did you think?
It was pretty good. The whole thing was tongue in cheek. It was amazing.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't want to tell his story. I can respect that.
Yeah.
I think that he thinks that his story is so boring that this is much better. Because there were little grains of truth sprinkled in the movie that were amazing and brilliantly woven in with stuff.
Isn't it like there's something interesting about the fact that every other story that comes out of the music industry is so interesting because it's a train wreck.
Yeah.
And he's just
He's
kind of normal.
He's a talented musician that managed to keep it together.
Yeah.
You know what? The most interesting thing about Weird Al is he's not that weird. Well, the Ford CEO, he has good things to say about electric vehicles. Not for you. I don't think this is going to affect you at all.
Ford CEO, 40% less labor to build electric vehicles. And yet they're not going to cost less.
I guess it would affect you if you work for Ford.
Yeah.
It'll affect you poorly. Also, Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, is the cousin of Chris Farley.
Did that blow your mind when
Yeah.
you read that? I was like, wait, what? Talk about a well-connected family.
Was it Ford or a different company that was making the van down by the river? Was it Ford? It might have been.
I think it was, yeah.
I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
They're
like,
Chris Farley.
Jim, we've all heard the story. Could you stop with it? And he's like, no, I think there's something here. And here's two words that should bring a chill down your spine. Amazon Healthcare.
Amazon announces new virtual healthcare service to help with allergies, acne, and hair loss.
Things that you don't need drugs for.
I'm pretty sure that the CNBC article left this out, but I'm pretty sure it's also for things like Viagra, but I just didn't want to mention that. In the
Yeah, well, like Accutane and they got a hair loss drug now too, where it's prescription, but it's like they'll give it to anybody.
Remember like 3 years ago, there was this for Adderall, and that got shut down really quickly because it's like, wait, that's a controlled substance. It's like, oh, oops, our bad.
Oh, that was the one that would just mail it to you.
Yeah.
Isn't
Well,
Accutane the one they put on your skin if you have bad acne?
No, you have to take
You
it.
take it, but it's for that. Yeah.
Okay. I thought that had some sort of horrible side effect if you're
Oh,
not
yeah.
careful.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you're like pregnant or if you have anemia or something like that.
Yeah,
real
it's
bad
not good for you.
But they're fine with that. And they've got plausible deniability because you spent 15 minutes on a bad Zoom call with a doctor, you know, a D-list or D student doctor.
D's get degrees, am I right? That's who you'll be talking to.
Those guys sold a lot of Oxy.
Although, having seen a bunch of doctors lately, it's really not a lot better. You just show up and they're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run this on your insurance, make sure they're going to do stuff. I'm just, you know, hello, how's it going? All right, I'll catch you next time. And that was the meeting. That was the initial meeting.
There's a phrase in the medical industry that they've coined for that: diagnose and dash.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, except I'm still waiting on my diagnosis.
Well, this was hot news as it just happened. Was this Wednesday or Thursday? We got the big unbanning.
Elon Musk says he will unban Donald Trump after Twitter poll.
And he has at this point. You can go back to Trump's account and see all his old tweets.
As of the time I read this, Trump had not tweeted yet.
Yeah.
No,
As of the time we're shooting this, he has in fact said he's not coming back. But I think that he will reverse position on that fairly quickly.
He is a man who loves a crowd to talk to. He likes to express himself. And I saw somebody juxtaposed. How many votes did that get?
It was a lot, but it was almost 50-50, like the vote.
But the total reach was massive. Like a lot of people looked at it, and then a lot of people also voted versus Trump's post about it on Truth Social, which had 174 truths, which is their like system. So it's like, you're not really talking to a lot of people over there. Can you really resist?
Though I do kind of wonder, I've seen a lot of people complain like, hey, I blocked Elon Musk or I muted him or whatever, and I'm still seeing his posts and his polls.
Yeah.
And it's like, is he getting that kind of reach because he's just forcing everybody to look at it?
So funny thing about the reinstatement, initially, the new Trump account started with 0 followers, and then it jumped to like 800,000 in the first 17 minutes, and then it trailed off after like 30 or 40 minutes. And then like a couple hours later, it was back to 83 million.
That's weird.
I think the conspiracy theory online is that Musk wanted Trump to see the numbers growing like crazy, but that didn't happen. And so he's like, just restore them.
Trying to tease him back in.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the numbers, if he's got the internal dashboard and he's looking at what has moved growth on Twitter, there's got to be a big red flashing Donald Trump, right? Like,
just controversy and things that make
things
people
people
angry.
argue about.
I was talking about this on the stream. I just read some like nonfiction government conspiracy books about MK Ultra and stuff like that recently, and I was like, I want more political nonfiction like this. So I went to the New York Times bestseller list for nonfiction, not just political nonfiction, all nonfiction. I would conservatively estimate 50% of those books are about Donald Trump. It's both sides. It's like pro and anti-Trump, but that's all it is.
I don't understand. Like, he's not that interesting.
You're doing such a good job with your physical health. Why would you do that to your mental health?
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate, poof.
That's like me reading world news every day and then getting freaked out.
I loved the MK Ultra book. I mean, it's terrifying, but the big thing about it is you're reading it and you're like, they're still doing this.
Yeah.
I can see this in so many things that they're doing today. Is that later? But like the people, the coach at FTX, like the performance coach, I think that guy's CIA. Pretty sure that guy's CIA. Did we? Oh yeah, we didn't do this one yet. Wait a minute. I was just clicking while I was telling my story. Meta, yes. So
this is a quick story.
This is kind of like, I imagine some of this happened at Twitter too, right?
Yeah.
That's what happened at every like big social media site.
But now that they're all falling apart,
Yeah.
it's going to get worse.
Meta fires several employees and security guards, which are contractors, for hijacking user accounts, according to a report. It turns out that there's an internal system that's like, something weird happened, and you just need to reset a password for a family member. All right, go on in. We trust you. Fortunately, somebody was paying attention some of the time.
I don't think they told totals in this. I would love to know what you got paid per hack. I bet it was real low.
Which should tell you something about how much they're paying their security teams if
Probably.
they're willing to like do that for nothing.
Do you think the security team is actually Facebook employees, or is that subcontracted?
Probably subcontracted so they don't have to pay insurance and stuff.
Well, Facebook has also decided to make some changes about Mr. Trump. As you remember, they got in quite a bit of trouble for somewhat selectively choosing what to post and what not to post when it came to politicians. Looks like this time they're just throwing their hands up.
Facebook fact checkers will stop checking Trump after a presidential bid announcement.
I just don't want to hear from him anymore. Everybody stop talking about him.
It's just so exhausting. Yeah, it's just.
But it gets the clicks. It
Yeah.
makes money still. So that's never going to change.
We covered this already.
All right. Yeah. He finally did it. Good job. And Musk, the takeover does not seem to be going well. Now, the narrative is squarely against him, so maybe it's not as bad as it seems, but seems pretty bad.
Musk emails remaining Twitter staff to find anyone who actually writes software. The email said, anyone who actually writes software, please report to the 10th floor. And I just, okay. For some reason, in my mind, this triggered. You remember the meme, "Safety not guaranteed"? That's what. So, like, meet me on the 10th floor. I've only done this software thing once before.
You posted that the other day, and I immediately heard the song. Doo, 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 doo. What a great ad!
That was not the only thing he asked for, though. He also asked for like examples of their best work and screenshots showing their best code. Do you think he could sit down and judge that?
There was another post, and it might have been a parody, but it was from someone, I think, who said that they worked at Twitter, and they were asked to print their code.
Yeah. Well, he wanted screenshots at least.
Can you imagine if a client of ours was like, "Can you print some code for me?" Would you not immediately laugh in their face? Like,
If they were a good client, I'd just give it to them. Like, here you go. Here's here's us connecting to a database. Enjoy that.
I've got some SQL statements under my belt that were like 12 pages long. It's just like the query parser takes like 2 seconds to parse this.
Oh yeah. Oh, and you can see here in the source where at the end of every line of SQL, I did a carriage return because it's so much more readable. So you enjoy that.
Now this join here, it's got to be a left join. Otherwise you get into all sorts of problems.
All right.
We'll see you
Happy
Friday.
Thanksgiving.
oh yeah,
And watch the poofas. Your Thanksgiving table is going to be a landmine of unsaturated fats.
Or
Be
not.
careful.
Or it'll mostly be rice and beans and maybe a little squash.
oh. Bum, bum, bum.
You can have tofurkey.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys. Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show. Today is November 25th, and it is the best part of the week because Thanksgiving is over and we're doing robots and nonsense.
Today's a
Everybody's-
day for sleep.
Yeah.
Everybody's their colons are packed. They're sitting around, they're digesting, they're sleeping it off. Great time to listen to some space stories. And let's start off talking about the moon because we're going back. And by we, I don't actually mean the American people. I mean just a bunch of robots that we built.
Highlights from NASA's Artemis moon rocket launch. This is paywalled.
Paywalled.
Thanks, New York Times.
You can probably go to NASA's website and find photos and stuff too. They like to brag about their achievements.
It worked. We're going there. I guess probably there by now, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be some stuff up there, and we are taking a special passenger.
The first CubeSat to fly and operate on the moon, or at the moon, has successfully arrived. Now, in the non-paywall alternative that I read, this also suggested that it was going to pave the way for a manned moon mission.
Right. It's going to kind of like be the Wi-Fi for the manned mission once they get up there. Going to be navigational. And it turns out we don't really have a spot on the moon as like an anchor point for navigation. So that'll give us a GPS like.
A North Pole, if you will. Or North Star, I mean.
And I was always told as a child not to do this. I guess it's okay if you're a giant telescope.
Popular Science reports the world's largest telescope array is almost ready to stare straight into the sun. That's what our friends at the Lowell Observatory do. That's, remember we built the fancy Epic server for them? I should get out there now that we're sort of winding out of the pandemic and see how they're doing with that machine. They stare directly into the sun too. I wonder what their thoughts would be on this.
But without a telescope.
Their thoughts are, my eyes hurt. So we're looking at the sun is actually going to go into a more active period coming up, and we're a little bit concerned about what that might mean for us. So we're going to try
Spaceweather.com.
keep a better eye on it. This telescope.
Definitely don't read the Wikipedia article on the Carrington event if you want to sleep tonight, knowing that the sun is going to go into a more active period. Nervous laugh.
We should do a video about how to build your own Faraday cage.
You can construct a power transformer for your neighborhood from copper pots and scrap parts.
Surviving the EMP.
That's the easy part. The hard part is surviving when somebody sees that there's a light on in your home. And here, this is a little bit of a weird one, but I thought, we love baby animal stories. What about a little baby star?
Oh, this is adorable.
NASA Space Telescope reveals a celestial hourglass formed by an embryonic star. Now, this photo's been doctored a little bit. This is infrared and ultraviolet, but the star is making this shape.
I would like to have more pictures.
Different angles.
More pictures of the star baby, please.
Should be on someone's baby announcement.
Only 1 billion years to go.
Oh. Baby's turning 1 billion.
And while we were launching things to the moon, India was also busy.
India successfully launches its first privately made rocket from their SpaceX equivalent. So that's got to be pretty exciting.
It didn't actually go into space. It just did one of those, almost to space trips just to make sure it worked. It worked. And moving on to some robotics, Intel is now saying that they have built something, what they pointed out, with only Intel technology, all Intel parts, because they make their own stuff now, and they're going to detect all the deepfakes. Intel
unveils a real-time deepfake detector, claims 96% accuracy rate, at least until the deepfakes are trained with this model as a...
Yeah.
It's the spam. It's a more advanced version of the spam chicken and egg. We got good spam filters. The spam gets better.
So I don't know if this is publicly available yet, but when it is, it will immediately be used as the discriminator on a new neural network that works to make deepfakes that it can't detect. It will be a cog in the machine that will destroy it. Here's a genius thing that I never even considered. When you've got an army of robots moving throughout the city, guess what they can do?
Waymo is using its self-driving taxis to create real-time weather maps. Data will help improve Waymo's robo-taxi service. Because the automated driving, that does struggle a bit with weather events.
It's going to be funny when there's a horrible accident with one of the Waymos and they check in with it for weather and they're like, hey, Waymo number 75, how's the weather there? And it's like, oh, it's raining blood.
When I was in San Francisco, I saw some of these just zipping around. And then there was a freak hailstorm and they just pulled over.
None of them are trained on any actual weather because they're all in California and Arizona.
Honestly, most drivers should probably do that.
Yeah.
Depending on how bad it is, yeah.
Let's harken back. This has happened so many times. I guess the most high profile was probably Microsoft's Tay, right?
Yeah.
Tay, she came out, she was part of the world, and it turned out that she was learning from the worst of us as well as the best of us, and it didn't go well. So Meta decided to do kind of the same thing, but to make it specific, but they didn't make it specific enough, unfortunately.
Well, Meta's latest large language model survived only 3 days online. Galactica was supposed to help scientists. Instead, it mindlessly spat out biased and incorrect nonsense.
How's that not trademarked?
Galactica?
Yeah.
My favorite excerpt from this was that there was an article, Bears in Space was one of the generated articles, and obviously there is no history of bears in space, but this thing was like, yeah, that's totally a thing, and that's science that you can verify.
The terms of service here basically spelled out, it's like, don't trust this at all.
Yeah.
I don't even know why we did this.
And the other thing they said too was it would spit out articles that were things like that were obviously false, but it would attribute them to real scientists.
Yeah.
And
the AI is just trying to satisfy the algorithm to get its artificial endorphins.
Yeah.
It doesn't care about anything else, and there's no way for you to train it to care about anything else.
Yeah.
So we are not that close with the AI.
That's what we were talking about earlier, with articles and stuff being written by machines. That's what you get. Or it's with gardening stuff. I find that a lot too. I look up a gardening topic and at first it sounds okay. And then as you scroll through it, it's like, that's not That's not right. This was written by a robot.
It's too broad of a task. What you
Yeah.
have to do with AI, you have to give it a very specific thing to do. And these people have certainly done that. And the results, I was so curious. I did click on the link,
You looked at it.
but I had to join, I think, a Discord. And I was like, at that point, they wanted me to join some kind of server, and I was like, okay, you know what? I don't want to look that bad. Turns out there's a lot of this from the real world, so it's fine. You can keep the fake stuff.
TechCrunch reports meet unstable diffusion, the group trying to monetize AI porn generators. And of course, it's an ethical minefield. So Kyle Wiggers is writing up this with Amanda Sterling.
Oh, he's got a partner now. So, like, obviously, with the pixelation, you can't really tell. This one feels like an anime girl, right?
I think they're all anime, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This one looks like it could be real.
Maybe.
She is. Is that a cat girl? She's
Someone's-
got ears, I think.
Someone's going to make a painting of that in Minecraft.
Oh, you could export these directly into Minecraft. Can't even tell what that one is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
It's got the dark colors mean that it's probably like non-human, right? Is that
Maybe?
what would be that color? An eel? But that one looks real to me. I don't know. Anyway, they are doing this, and a lot of people are saying this is not okay, but they're saying it's fine. Oh,
Apparently, one of the things they tested was, could it do, non-traditional requests? And the answer was no. That's what it generated. That one that you went, oh.
I see. What
Like
was
it had no idea how to do stuff that was like non-anime or non.
Uncanny Valley.
They got to give it the DeviantArt library.
Yeah.
Then it'll be able to do all that extra stuff. Well, we're going up on Thanksgiving. We're going to eat a lot of meat, except for Wendell. He won't. What if this, this probably wouldn't help with your situation. It's the proteins, right?
Yeah.
So, but what if this was the only stuff that you could eat?
Well, I wonder if this is vegan. Lab-grown meat is okay for human consumption, the FDA says.
Just okay. Not excellent, but it's okay.
This is coming. And, so I predict that because everything in America is moving toward ultra-processed and because the cost of food is so high, we are going to absolutely destroy our health even more than we already have, because everybody will just gravitate toward this without really understanding the larger implications. And they're probably, it certainly seems like there's a correlation between ultra processed food and negative health outcomes.
FDA doesn't say that. They disagree. They say vegan ultra processed foods are a much better alternative to meat.
So what I'm hearing is that we should all be growing our own food.
So you're saying that there could be like an experimental food / medicine thing that everybody rushes to get and we shouldn't have? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying we should be
That's
growing
what,
our
that's
own
what
food.
Wendell's saying.
Well, it seems like that there are medical papers that say that ultra processed food is bad.
I'm just trying to think of a recent parallel to that, and I just can't think of any.
Engagement challenge. What have you got?
Well, how about we are still doing daylight savings time? Boo. But we're getting rid of this, which didn't bother. Well, it did bother a lot of programmers. I got to admit, this is a constant pain.
The leap seconds time is up. The world has voted to stop pausing clocks. Okay.
It's because it's not reliable. We don't necessarily always get one.
Yeah.
The earth is fickle.
We should end daylight savings though. It's so sad getting off work at
I bet.
5 and it's dark at 5:30.
Oh, yeah. I bet the earth was on the phone with Mercury and she was like, this year, I'm not even going to give them a leap second. Oh, I love screwing with them.
I'm pretty sure that the reason we missed our last leap second was because the Three Gorges Dam dramatically changed where a lot of mass was located.
Yeah, but now they're emptying it. We can get it back. And I had not heard about this. Of course, I immediately went to Krista, she keeps her finger on the pulse of small town health and wellness on Facebook. And she had heard a lot about it.
Yep. Record number of parents miss work as respiratory illnesses spike in kids. My cousin, his son had influenza A. RSV is going around, which also increases ear infections. and just regular old cold season.
A lot of schools and businesses shutting down because
Yeah.
of this. I've dodged it so far, but I know it's coming.
There's some fears about whether or not they'll be able to keep antibiotics in stock
Do you
Because there's-
take antibiotics for cold and flu?
for secondary infections caused by flu. So things like, I think, like bronchitis, the ear infections, that sort of thing. There's so many cases that are building up. They're like, oh crap, we can't keep up with it.
Now, I read the story and I didn't do any more looking into it. I wanted to, but I was too lazy. But I feel like this had to be funded by corn, right? Like, this sounds ridiculous.
I
to
didn't
me.
even think about that, but yeah, there was something off with this article.
They were saying some really crazy stuff in here.
Cows fed hemp produced milk with THC, researchers say.
That wouldn't necessarily surprise me.
I mean, is it a trace amount? Or,
Yeah.
or people?
Yeah.
But they claim that the cows were acting high, which,
Do cows process THC the same we do?
but even if you could eat all of that, you could just, like, if we had a weed plant right here, you could eat every bit of it. You wouldn't get high because it's fat soluble and there's nothing in your body to extract the compounds. That's why you gotta make brownies. So,
I was about to say, how do brownies work then?
because it's got fat in it.
Oh,
Like
okay.
the fat, the THC or whatever it is gets into the fat of whatever you're cooking.
Okay.
And that's what your body processes. That goes into your liver. The
Oh, that
cows would not have.
And yeah, that's why their manure is so good for gardening. It's all organic matter. There's no
I'm
fats
telling
in
you,
it.
if you look behind, I bet there's a corn pack or lobby group that.
Is there a link to the study in here? Or is it just a report on the study of the study?
Yeah, the journal Nature Food.
Click on
They
that.
probably own that.
Yeah, click on it. Let's do some investigative reporting. Who commissioned this study?
We're not going to be able to find
Find
that in
it.
here.
It exceeds the acute reference dose? That seems like a small number.
Anyway,
I'm not going to pretend I can read the text from that far away.
but imagine if you did get weed infused milk from those cows. That would be a huge money maker.
Yeah, that'd be a new thing, THC milk.
There's somebody in California working on that right now.
And the milk's got fat in it, so
Yeah.
that could work. Well, here's
How
a
long could they add it to the water supply to calm the citizenry down?
here's a crazy thing. Like, if you have poor self-control and you take this, imagine when you're 80 and you have bone cancer, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, you can't have this."
Fentanyl vaccine developed by researchers could eliminate the drug's high. So,
It stops the blood-brain transfer, but only for fentanyl. Although I wouldn't trust that. Would you?
no.
Isn't it with one of those two, like once you take it, is it Narcan? Once you take it, like if you take another drug after that, like you're probably screwed. You'll probably not know when you're overdosing or something
Oh,
like
because
that.
it blocks the receptors.
Yeah, same sort of thing. I couldn't remember all the names there.
I think
but-
the big thing, what Narcan does is, like, the reason you die from opiate overdoses is because that also controls your breathing. So you have opiate receptors that control breathing. So when you take too much, your body's just like, yeah, we don't need to breathe. And Narcan blocks those receptors and lets your body take back over.
Okay.
So probably has something to do with that.
Yeah, I've heard if you do heroin after taking Narcan, that's not good. But I can't.
That's
remember
hardcore
why.
though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you just died. Can I get some more heroin? Now, unfortunately, we don't actually have any way of measuring this, and this is an arbitrary line in the sand, but please stop. Please.
World population reaches 8 billion. I'm pretty sure Elon Musk keeps telling us that the population is going to collapse or whatever.
And yet it just keeps creeping up.
2050 but to 10 billion. The rate at which it's increasing is slowing at least.
Yeah, because the world's falling apart financially and people are starving and don't have clean water, which is why we should reduce.
I was at a
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
I was at a conference this week where they were talking about how because the people were having fewer babies in the 80s, that there are not enough people in the workforce now in a lot of
That's Japan is a microcosm of that. You had the boomers, And now the people who have to take care of the boomers, there's not enough of them.
Yeah.
Whereas the boomers, there were plenty of them for the previous generation, which was smaller than them.
The missing people from the 80s wasn't a huge deal until now because boomers are retiring and there's no one to replace them.
That's part of the reason, people want more money too, because it's like, well, there's less people to take this job, which is why they're all just moving into robots now.
Oh, so you're saying that having less people is good for the average person? Imagine that. The World Cup in Qatar has been a shocking mess. And the world initially was a little bit questionable. It's like, really? Really? We're going to let these guys do it? And like, they don't have the best record. But now that it's happening, it seems like all the concessions they made are slowly being clawed back.
Fans paid to attend the World Cup by Qatar have their daily allowance canceled. They're still going to have their flight and their hotel, but they don't get extra money for food.
Which,
why? Because some newspaper complained about that. It's like, why are people being paid to go to Qatar? That seems weird.
because it turns out a lot of people don't want to go to Qatar. And you don't want empty seats because that's embarrassing. But now they're in Qatar. Some of the people were on the flights when they found out, and they're not going to have any food budget. And I bet eating at the World Cup is super cheap, right?
Well, you can't drink, so.
Well, spoiler.
You can drink outside, but FIFA Head says fans will survive without beer at World Cup because you can have the beer somewhere else, just not at the World Cup, not in the stadium.
Yeah, you can go to one of those Qatar bars.
I imagine there's a few, but probably not many.
No. There's going to be hidden away kiosks out of the public eye. They can't be visible. So you have to go and like find them and drink in darkness.
I mean, I'm not a sports person, but like, isn't part of the joy going to the stadium and getting drunk and screaming for your favorite team?
It's one of the most drunken sports that you can find.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, they announced that this would be allowed when everybody bought their tickets and flights and stuff. And then
I'm pretty sure sponsors have been.
Budweiser tweeted, "This is awkward," but then they deleted it. And one of the big things that fell out from the Twitter thing, we talked about this last week, but now we have a headline about it, is all the fake accounts. And they did a very good job at pointing out some of the absurdities of our modern life.
Eli Lilly, CEO, says the insulin tweet flap probably, quote unquote, signals the need to bring down the costs.
They're going to trim off $1.
Yeah, if we could have it on parity with like, Canada or South America, anywhere in South America pretty much, that would be just amazing.
Yeah, but you got to socialize to get those prices. And Belgium, I was reading about, for some reason, Belgium has become the gateway to Europe in terms of drugs. I don't know why it is. Maybe it has something to do with like the migrant stuff. I don't know. But
maybe
anyway,
waffles are involved somehow.
You think so? Cocaine and waffles?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a new restaurant we should think about setting up.
Customs sees so much cocaine in Belgium that incinerators can no longer keep up. It's going to be more than 40 tons.
Wow.
I bet that incinerator smells great.
It's like a RimWorld story. Oh no, some smoke leaf has arrived. Incinerate it.
Yeah, yo. This is also like a RimWorld story in that it's a very horrible way to die.
Indiana man dies after falling into a manure lagoon on dairy farm. Well, he was on a piece of farm equipment that turned over with him on it, and it cut him up real bad. And so he actually died of bleeding.
Yeah, well, that's what they say because I think they just didn't want to say he drowned in poop.
There was a story many years ago about, it was in China, I think, where like there was a septic system. Someone fell into it, I guess, while they were doing something to it. Someone went in to go get them, passed out because of the fumes. Another person went in to go get them, passed out. It was like a continual thing.
It was like a honeypot for snipers, except it was just manure doing it.
Yeah.
The microbes, they set it up. Over in China, they have, there's a great TikTok channel of a guy, and he's constantly just drinking beer and smoking in first person and eating horrible foods. And it's the same video every time, but it's so compelling. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, smoking's still a big part of their culture over there, whereas it's fallen off in other places.
Chinese man, 50, runs a marathon in under 3.5 hours while smoking cigarettes. The runner, who goes by the name Uncle Chen, finished 574th out of a group of nearly 1,500.
3.5 hours is a good time.
Yeah. I couldn't do that not smoking cigarettes.
I wonder, they didn't go into how much time he was not smoking. They said chain smoking, but like how many cigarettes is that in that time?
Just putting the whole pack in his mouth and then lighting them all.
Also, if you were going one after the other, how long does it take to smoke a cigarette? And that, how many cigarettes did he have on his person? Do you think he had people lighting them
He
and
had
like
like
holding them out? A fanny pack.
He had a utility belt just full of cigarette packs.
It'd be funny if he was just trolling, like he wasn't really, you know, and they were just.
They're candy cigarettes.
Yeah, there were people that were upset. It's like, oh, you should be disqualified. It's like, well, technically, there's nothing in the rules.
And it's harder, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that makes it extra difficulty. It's not performance.
It would be
enhancing.
annoying if you're the person behind him. You're just getting like,
You try to get around him, but he's too fast.
Yeah.
Constantly in his wake. I love these stories because we're in this crazy time where rappers are YouTube rappers now. So they're not rich, but they're kind of famous, but they're still doing the petty crimes just for the day to day. And you get these weird situations.
What website is this? Young Dolph murderer suspect releases song "No Statements" from jail, and that's what the lyrics are. It's like, I'm not going to make any statements from jail. This is probably going to be part of his trial.
I have to listen to it. I didn't listen to the song. Does it have like instrumentation at all, or is it just him
Well,
rapping?
no, they recorded his rhymes over the phone from jail. And then they put a beat behind it. So it's weird that the song is about not making a statement, but anything you say in the song, because it's over that prison phone system, is admissible in court as a statement.
And the suspect's been in jail for a year.
I'm imagining like the prison architect thing where you tap the phone lines, but the guard's listening to it like,
It's like, this is fire. It's like he's nodding his head, like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. But he killed another YouTube rapper, allegedly. It's all YouTube rappers all the way
all
down.
the way down.
And Twitter, I wonder if this was because Elon Musk took over and started reviewing things, or did it just shake out naturally?
No, the article says it shook out because another news article wrote a story, and then mysteriously it was fine.
So often, the way to actually get in contact with these big tech companies is to get a headline about them.
Yeah.
And then they'll talk to you.
Astronomer locked out of Twitter for 3 months after a video of meteor was flagged as intimate content. It's like, you posted this video without permission, and this is, you having a good time with your girlfriend or whatever is what is implied. And in order to get their account back, they had to say, okay, I shouldn't have posted that, but it was their video. So,
Whoa, look at that hot action. Oh my God.
yeah, the algorithm
So
flagged
sexy.
that erroneously, and no one looked at it for 3 months.
What do they think this was? Just sex in a dark room?
What
Oh,
went
that's
into that
something.
training?
I'm just sitting here watching it like, okay.
Oh, so salacious. And Herschel Walker, has that race
It's going into a
concluded yet?
runoff.
Oh, right. Yeah. So he's still campaigning. I love Dave Chappelle in his Saturday Night Live monologue. He referred to Herschel Walker as observably stupid.
Oh,
This is not going to help his case. Although I don't think this is all that terrible. I don't.
Herschel Walker explains vampires and werewolves. That was the headline, but he didn't actually explain vampires and werewolves. He just said that he was watching a dumb movie, and he learned that werewolves can kill vampires.
I don't know what that necessarily has to do with the Senate race.
maybe
Maybe-
he's trying to be relatable.
I mean, Mitch McConnell could be a vampire.
He does seem like he's at least related to Nosferatu,
He
doesn't
has
he?
a certain quality about him.
There's something of the grave about him. Have you guys heard a Mariah Carey Christmas song yet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I may have sought one out.
Oh, I think I caught one at Meyer. It is impossible to avoid. It's like sniper fire around the holidays. You really have to work to stay away from it. But she is not the only voice of Christmas officially.
Mariah Carey is not the sole quote unquote queen of Christmas, the trademark board said. So she was trying to get the trademark for this, but there's apparently another queen of Christmas that said the queen of Christmas is more ephemeral and generic than that.
Maybe it's Mrs. Claus and she's protecting the spirit of Christmas.
The trademark board agreed.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of Christmases before Mariah existed.
Yeah.
There will be some after. Well, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it'll just be nuclear waste, but let's hope. And this is the guy I was talking about. I'm like, I mean, this is my opinion. I'm not making any accusations here, but I'm fairly confident this guy works for the CIA.
News.com.au says the FTX coach says that executives were quote unquote undersexed and denies rampant amphetamine use. Yeah, this is the only explanation here.
Oh, it's playing music.
No.
Sorry.
There's no desktop audio though, so we're good. But yeah, there were a lot of rumors about like the orgy house, and they were all just, going hard on stimulants to try to get things done. A lot of other irregularities. And this guy was their performance coach. We should get a performance coach. He says none of that's true.
Here's an idea. Maybe you wouldn't have to take drugs to get work done if you weren't, also having an orgy house.
I mean, that could just be decompression, right? Like 8 hard hours of coding and then 8 hard hours of orgy.
Oh, when do you sleep?
You're on all kinds of amphetamines, so you don't need to sleep.
Oh, of course.
And Disney's parks just had a real bad financial report. Did you guys see that? People are not going to the Disney parks as much as they used to.
They also had a hurricane earlier this season. I think the park.
They have that every year, right?
No, I don't think it always hits Disney.
But yeah, they've have a bad time, and so they're trying to figure out how to get people. Oh my God, is that this?
That's the boiler snake.
Oh, that's Boiler Snake.
He kind of, you guys probably can't hear him, but he kind of makes like a little.
He loves Disney.
He does.
Yeah, that's one of the things I don't like about him, but he's such a good guy that we just go along with it. Anyway, Disney trying to find a way to bring you back to the park. This doesn't appeal to me.
No. Disney is trying to build the first ever roller coaster that jumps off the track and flies through the air. Engineers say it's theoretically possible.
That's a real vote of confidence from your engineering team.
They filed a patent about it. There's a picture, but it looks like somebody just photoshopped part of the ring missing.
I used to make these in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. It didn't go well.
I feel like if you had even a little bit of weird weight distribution with your guests on the ride.
What about a bird?
There's going to be a football team that goes on this, and everybody's going to sway to the left. It's just going to kill them all.
Or it's be like, you see the gap coming up, it's like, get ready to shake, and then everybody dies. You guys ever do that in school where the bus would take a hard turn and everybody would run to one side and try to turn it over?
Yeah.
What were we thinking?
Or you also did you do freeze outs on the bus? Yeah, where everyone had to keep your window down.
It would definitely freak the driver out too, so you knew you were doing something.
I can see how they might be freaked out by that. Oh, you guys are just having fun with my career back there, huh? Possible jail time for me. Yeah, that sounds good. Keep up with that.
No one will ever believe that all the kids ran to one side of the bus.
But I think everybody would because everybody did it.
Yeah.
We all did the same stupid stuff. Engagement challenge. Did you do that stupidity in your country? Do you have school buses where you are?
I remember one time the bus driver backed into a hill and the bus got stuck. And then we all got off the bus and that unstuck the bus. And he's like, please, nobody say anything about this.
Yeah, that would definitely be some paperwork.
Yeah.
And finally, was that a bit of a Boiler Snake smash?
That was the boiler snake.
That's what
knock.
it sounded like it.
That was the... He has a little bit of a cough when he goes to sleep for a while. That was what that was.
He eats too many poofas.
It's the sound of him putting on his CPAP machine.
Oh,
He's getting older.
He just inserts his whole head in it because he's a snake. Oh. Anyway, last story before we go and console our beautiful snake. A good boy, and I love animal stories where the animals are so well treated and so indoctrinated with people. They get to a point where they're like, I've made a terrible error, but I trust that any human can resolve this. I just need to find one.
Lost dog, quote unquote, hands itself in at the Longborough police station. So this dog was out with their owner and another dog for a walk. There were some fireworks or something, and it got scared and ran off. And then a few hours later, it sort of figured out, okay, I'm lost. I don't know what's going on. And it went into the police station and just sort of sat next to a chair until somebody gave it some water and some help.
There's Rosie on the right, and then her brother Laser.
oh. Ding. Boiler snake like that story.
Well, this thing loves animal stories, but you have to wonder, like, is it excited because it's an animal story? Is it excited because it's like, maybe that's something I could eat?
I don't think he could eat that dog.
No, he's big. He's like a boa.
Ding. It's kind of a sad one compared to the old room. It's like I don't know if the mic will even pick it up.
Let's hope it does.
Anyway, that's it for this week. Happy Thanksgiving. Prepare yourself for Mariah Carey Christmas.